Let's go to the movies. For more than half a century, these words have meant an invitation to magic. The magic of moving pictures, the spinning of dreams in a darkened theater. For 3 decades, the dreams were silent ones, the magic of movement alone. Then suddenly, on a night in October 1927, a voice was heard from the screen, proclaiming a fabulous era in Hollywood. The night the movies became the talkies, with the premiere of The Jazz Singer and the voice of Al Jolson.
It's interesting that the first sound motion picture was a musical in which Al Jolson only sang. And the reason for that is they said, well, who wants to hear actors talk?
Most of the running time is a silent film, using titles with an orchestra score. But every once in a while, the orchestra stops and Jolson pops up and starts singing.
Wonderful pals are always hard to find. Some folks have one, some folks have none.
Jolson always talked to his audience. It was one of the things he was known for, was his patter. And specifically, his catchphrase, which he'd been saying since 1906.
You ain't heard nothing yet. Wait a minute, I tell you. You ain't heard nothing.
He said that when they were recording the audio, so the first words we hear in dialogue in a film were, you ain't heard nothing yet.
The first full talking feature, Lights of New York, is a very dull pseudo-gangster film with people you've never heard of sitting around a table and a telephone in the middle where obviously the microphone exists, and they're all leaning toward it.
Take him for a ride. Oh.
And the film came out, and it just blew the roof off. And nobody could figure it out because everybody knew it was a terrible movie. The only thing that could possibly be responsible for that kind of public response was the fact that it was all talking. So that's the movie that really changed the equation.
Faith.
Actresses and actors in the silent period had to look a certain way. You get sound, and a lot of those people are put out of a job where they don't sound the right way.
I don't mind if you close that door.
I like them open. They're easier to get out through.
John Gilbert was having trouble in sound, and his films weren't making money. Vilma Banky from Hungary was a very big star.
And I was walking up and down, up and down.
He made 1 or 2 talkies, quit the business.
The very last silent film that MGM made, which is called The Kiss, was a Greta Garbo film. They were afraid that their biggest star would lose her audience when people heard her speak with her Swedish accent. Her first talkie was called Anna Christie, and the tagline for it was Garbo Talks. Everyone was really excited to hear what she would sound like, and she didn't disappoint. If you look at that famous scene in the bar, there's a good 20 seconds of just quiet, no music, no dialogue, no nothing, and it really builds the suspense.
Give me a whiskey, ginger ale on the side. And don't be stingy, baby.
Give me a whiskey, baby. Greta Garbo, she was full of mystery and beauty and talent. She just didn't try so much. You know what I mean? She was cool.
MGM was sort of like the Harvard of Hollywood. It was the place that every star wanted to graduate to. It had Garbo, it had Gable, it had Spencer Tracy. It offered to the public a sense of escape into a world of class and refinement. On the other hand, Universal Pictures was constantly on the financial shoals throughout the 1930s. It couldn't afford movie stars. And the strategy that it finally settled on was making horror movies.
I am Dracula.
The Universal horror movies are primal. They're just dripping with atmosphere. You look at Dracula, the look of it is part of the energy of it. It's part of the character. It's part of the vibe.
The spider spinning his web for the unwary fly. The blood is the life, Mr. Redfield.
I love Dracula. It gets better every time I watch it. Lugosi is acting on this other level. The whole pace of the scene revolves around him. He sucks all the air out of the room in a good way.
When Dracula became such a box office hit, Universal Studios went, oh, that worked. What else is out there?
He's alive! In the name of God, now I know what it feels like to be God.
It was James Whale's Frankenstein that made me want to make movies. I just remember seeing Boris Karloff in the burning windmill sequence. I was 6 years old, and from that point on, I wanted to make films.
The Bride of Frankenstein.
Everybody made horror pictures, but what was unique about Universal's was the care with which they were made, plus they made a lot, and they had big success.
RKO was a little bit of an underdog studio. And then David Selznick came in. He had a real sense of what audiences wanted and gave them King Kong.
King Kong was one of my early traumatic experiences at the movies. I remember closing all of my blinds in our house because of the one scene where King Kong looks into the window and finds Fay Ray, and his hand comes in and abducts her.
Watching King Kong when I was a kid was an amazing experience. If you've ever been around like a stop-motion puppet and moved it one frame at a time, there's something that's quite magical about that. And that's why that form of animation has always been so inspirational to me.
Do you know who sneaked into my stateroom at 3 o'clock this morning? Who did that? Nobody, and that's my complaint. I'm young, I want gaiety, laughter, hot-cha-cha.
The Marx Brothers collectively changed American humor. The jokes were like hitting, and they still hit. You watch them over generations. This stuff is really still that funny.
You know what vessel is? Sure, I can vessel.
Groucho is like the smart comedy, Chico is the dumb comedy, and Harpo is the silent comedy. It's like such a great variety pack.
This was escapism for Depression-era audiences. Almost all of their films are about this group of working-class comedians taking on an institution of great dignity and respect. The art world in Animal Crackers, a university in Horse Feathers, an opera house in A Night at the Opera, or most of all, the entire system of government in Duck Soup.
We're in the money, we're in the money. We've got a lot of what it takes to get along.
I'm totally a fan of Busby Berkeley. His Warner Brothers musicals were the best. They were real. They were about women working in show business, trying to get a job during the Depression.
Remember My Forgotten Man?
One of the most incredible numbers is Remember My Forgotten Man with Joan Blondell. It's just heartbreaking with all the soldiers on the big archway, and it's just brilliant.
Busby Berkeley just blew people's minds. He turned the musical from just this flat-facing dance number to a kaleidoscope. He actually built special holes in the soundstage so he could really film down.
Busby Berkeley knew that film was a new medium, and the way that they would have the sets basically move with the choreography it's amazing.
Nothing's impossible, I have found. For when my chin is on the ground, I pick myself up, dust myself off, start all over again.
My father was under contract at RKO, and they asked him to make a musical. I think what he brought to Astaire and Rogers was a kind of believability.
Start all over again.
I've seen that film during the Depression where people are surrounded by hopelessness and they see this buoyant and brilliant and comic number. That would have been the most satisfying experience. Pick yourself up.
The habits of movie-going in the 30s were very different than they are today. People just didn't come for one movie. There was sometimes a second feature, the B picture, there was a newsreel, there was a short, and there was a cartoon. Walt Disney, who had created Mickey Mouse, he was a visionary, and he got this idea, maybe I'll make a feature-length cartoon. And no one ever thought about this. They thought he was out of his mind.
No one had ever attempted this before. And the attempt is difficult for us to understand because it isn't just making feature animation. It is to see if an audience would care about drawings.
Snow White is based on a European fairy tale, but it's not a children's picture. It was intended for a mixed audience of adults and kids.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Walt was not afraid to have dramatic power.
I can't do it.
He was not afraid to go there. He was not afraid to have scenes that would be scary, traumatic even.
People were shocked to find out that they were genuinely afraid in the scary parts and genuinely moved when Snow White is under the sleeping death because of the tenderness of the animation. Grown adults wept at the premiere. So Disney did everything that they said couldn't be done. It was a giant hit, way surpassed expectations, and allowed Walt to really build the studio.
Every animated feature we have today, it all stems from Snow White. Without Snow White, none of this would exist.
Red, this can't go on.
Why?
I love my wife. I've never loved anybody else. Why, we've been sweethearts ever since we were kids.
Yes, but she doesn't need to know about us.
Between 1930 and 1934, filmmakers were really free to explore subjects like sex and violence, and what you ended up getting was some very fascinating female characters who were sexually liberated. It's quite shocking to see what they were able to get away with.
I always did like a man in a uniform. And that one fits you grand. Why don't you come up sometime, see me?
Mae West was not afraid to own her status as a sex symbol. She was incredibly intelligent and wrote all her own films. She starred with Cary Grant, who she chose. She said she loved his voice, and that really helped him to become a leading man.
Tonight you were especially good.
Well, when I'm good, I'm very good. But when I'm bad, I'm better.
Her films were incredibly successful, but the Catholic Legion of Decency, the moral groups, were not happy at all. They were petitioning the government to step in and start enforcing censorship if the studios didn't do it themselves.
Hollywood is trying to figure out how to deal with the pressure they're getting because of Mae West, because of all of these early gangster films, like Little Caesar, Public Enemy, and Scarface. And what's going to happen as a result is Hollywood would create the Production Code Administration in '34 to rein it in.
What this country needs even more than a good 5-cent cigar is clean, rollicking comedy.
Next time you drop in, bring your folks.
In 1934, the beginnings of the screwball comedy come up. It happened one night, pits Clark Gable against Claudette Colbert, a spoiled heiress who has run away from her dad.
When you get the code, which makes it impossible to show people in bed together, you have to invent. You're not going to give up on sex, but you have to talk around it. You created intrigue, it created banter.
That, I suppose, makes everything quite all right.
Well, this? Well, I like privacy when I retire. Yes, I'm very delicate in that respect. Prying eyes annoy me.
It Happened One Night is genius. The Walls of Jericho scene is an absolute classic for anybody who ever wants to direct romantic comedies.
The Walls of Jericho will protect you from the big bad wolf.
The Hays Code pushed Capra to create an even better, in many ways, even sexier scene.
It Happened One Night was so successful, winning 5 Academy Awards, all the major categories, and it kicked off the whole idea that we should all be making screwball comedies.
But you can't stand here talking to this man. What will people think? I don't care what they think. Godfrey's going to be our butler.
Screwball comedies were particularly popular in the 30s because of the Depression, and you saw generally wealthy people, or people who were well off, making fools of themselves.
Just leave everything to Godfrey.
The phrase screwball came from a review in Variety of Carole Lombard's screwball performance in My Man Godfrey.
Forget that you had any trouble. I thought so. Let that be a lesson to you.
Godfrey! Oh, Godfrey, don't go away. Oh, Godfrey. Now I know you love me.
I do not love you, and you're getting me all wet.
You do, or you wouldn't have lost your temper. What is the meaning of this, may I ask? Oh, Mother, Godfrey loves me. Put me in the shower.
Carole Lombard was extraordinary. She played a lot of kookiness, but she had logic to her humor. Your timing can't be like that unless you're very, very clever.
Get out, you freak!
The trick was that the leading characters did slapstick. One of my favorites is The Awful Truth. It was kind of the first real Cary Grant performance.
What
is the matter with you?
The following year, he did Bringing Up Baby, the epitome of screwball comedy.
Fool of yourself. Now look here, you can't tell me.
Discovering the romantic comedies of the 30s and 40s, that really took over my life for a long time. The Philadelphia Story is one of my all-time favorites.
Hello. Fancy seeing you here.
You have three of the most impeccable actors in a movie together.
Cinderella's slipper. It's called champagne. Champagne is a great leveler.
Jimmy Stewart's drunken scene is just one of the all-time great drunken performances. He's just so convincing. And it's just so funny and beautiful, and you root for this one, and then you root for that one. I mean, it gives you everything you could ever want from a movie.
I'd know you anytime, any place.
Anywhere. Ah, you're repeating yourself, Walter. That's the speech you made the night you proposed.
Yeah, I know that you still remember it.
Of course I remember it. If I didn't remember it, I wouldn't have divorced you.
There's probably more words per square inch in His Girl Friday than in any other film in the history of the world. So I imagine the script is probably about that thick, and Rosalind Russell clearly was the best at it.
Listen, Walter.
Listen, I made a great reporter out of you, Hildy, but you won't be half as good on any other paper, and you know it. We're a team, that's what we are. You're a team, and I need you, and the paper needs
Sold American.
Many of these films that you get in Hollywood in the 30s showcase some of the top Black performers of that era. So you get the Nicholas brothers, for instance, or Bill Bojangles Robinson. Many people found them entertaining, but these Black characters were often very stereotypical and problematic.
Hallelujah, oh praise be, Mr. Jackson coming home.
Hattie McDaniel was known for playing mammy-type roles.
You know, Miss Ty, I've been under the impression that you is a one-man woman.
I am, one man at a time.
Figures like the mammy were really racial caricatures. They're fantasies of what a maid or a mammy on the plantation would have been. They don't have much agency. They exist as the backdrop for the narrative world that the white characters live in.
Try and find out what he wants, Cora.
Yes, ma'am, I'll find out right away.
Those images were damaging, but she didn't create them. They were created by the white people who controlled Hollywood.
I believe you're the laziest man that ever lived on this river.
This river, Queenie? That's saying a whole lot. Paul Robeson was always bigger than the material that he was given. In Showboat, he was able to change Old Man River into something that's much more complex and ultimately much more critical of the racism that character is experiencing.
You get a little drunk and your land's in jail.
Paul Robeson starts doing films when Oscar Micheaux was making films, like Body and Soul.
Oscar Micheaux was one of the pioneers of African-American cinema. He was part of a genre known as the race film, and race films were made since the beginning of the birth of film, primarily by Black filmmakers for Black audiences.
In the very early days of cinema, it's easier not only for African Americans, but also for women to get into the industry.
It was considered the norm to have women in all levels of Hollywood. They were directors. Half of all films written between 1912 and 1929 were written by women.
We ain't telling nobody till we get ready to make the break outside of you. Not for me, Butch. I'm going straight.
The Big House ended up being one of the two films that Frances Marion won her Oscars for, and she remains the only woman to have won 2 Academy Awards for original story. The other film, of course, is The Champ.
I think that's enough for today, don't you, huh?
You've done swell, champ. Any Jonah.
She was incredibly prolific. She has a huge filmography. Plus, she made movies in genres that you might typically think of as masculine.
As the film industry consolidated into studios, both women and African Americans are being pushed out as shapers and filmmakers. And you have a studio system that is organized around stars, and women become the objects of that commodification.
Film 701, Sternberg, Frau Dietrich, Aufnahme 3.
When you have someone like Marlene Dietrich come from Germany, she has to represent the exotic, the other, the unknown. Her great appeal is her fabulous androgyny. Everybody seems to like that about her.
In Morocco, she's playing a cabaret singer dressed in a top hat and tails, which would become an iconic outfit that she wore in performances for the rest of her life.
May I have this? Of course.
She takes this young woman's rose from the audience and then gives the woman a kiss right on the lips. Particularly in the films that she made with von Sternberg, Morocco, Blonde Venus, The Devil is a Woman. Almost nothing happened in these movies. They were completely non-narrative. They were just all about staging this kind of spectacle of desire and beauty.
In the 1930s, it was estimated that 70% of a movie-going audience was female. And the more women in the audience you get, the more they crave strong female characters.
These female movie stars really ruled the box office and often were getting paid much more than their male counterparts.
Wouldn't you like someone to be in love with you?
Yes, Gabrielle, I would like someone in love with me.
Do you think I'm attractive?
There are better words than that for what you are.
Although it may seem absurd to us now, in her time, Bette Davis was considered not pretty. She had this sort of unusual face with those slightly protruding eyes, but she just had so little vanity as an actress and utter openness to playing unlikable characters.
Here she was, a young actress, trying to establish herself as a star, and she insists on doing Of Human Bondage, where she plays the worst person who ever lived.
I never cared for you, not once. I was always making a fool of you. You bored me stiff. I hated you. It made me sick when I had to let you kiss me. I only did it because you begged me. You hounded me. You drove me crazy. And after you kissed me, I always used to wipe my mouth. Wipe my mouth!
Bette Davis gives this incredible performance in Of Human Bondage. Doesn't even get nominated. And so then the next year she wins for Dangerous, and that's sort of considered one of the first consolation prize Oscars. Everybody sort of realizes, we should have given it to you last year. And then she becomes the first actress to get 5 Best Actress nominations in a row. She is Meryl Streep of the pre-World War II period, basically.
The women's picture was a really great, almost genre of films that lasted from 1930 through the 1950s. It encompassed so many different genres within, but it always had a woman at the center of it.
May I suggest if you're dressing to please Stephen? Not that one. He doesn't like such obvious effects.
Thanks for the tip. But when anything I wear doesn't please Stephen, I take it off.
You can look at the women as sort of the apotheosis of the genre because there were no men in this movie, not one single man in the film, and they made a hit.
There's a name for you ladies, but it isn't used in high society, outside of a kennel.
My mother was truly a stage mother, a mean one. If I didn't feel good, if I was sick to my tummy, she'd say, you get out and sing or I'll wrap you around the bedpost and break you off short. So I'd go out and sing.
One of the precepts for a story musical is that the song has to advance the story. A song like Somewhere Over the Rainbow, all that longing, you know that she's got to go on a journey after she sings a song like that. And then all of a sudden she gets to go someplace else. She's taken up by a tornado and she lands in this magical world. She doesn't know that she's in another world until she opens that door, and it is in beautiful color.
You can't think about The Wizard of Oz without thinking about the Yellow Brick Road. This was 3-strip Technicolor, which had colors that were amazingly vivid. Because it was a fantasy, the colors didn't have to be completely realistic, but they're very alive and very exciting, and this was entertainment that people hadn't seen before.
It is astonishing what they were able to do, and also how poignant all of those performances are.
Don't you think the wizard could help him, too?
I don't see why not.
Jack Haley, Ray Bolger, and Burt Lahr, they brought such incredible humanity and poignancy to these crazy characters.
Yes, I'm ready now. Then close your eyes and tap your heels together 3 times.
It was the greatest children's film of all time that
People constantly relate to the idea of leaving home and finding home again.
Oh, Annie M., there's no place like home.
Stagecoach was one of the defining films of the Western genre. John Ford begins to turn around the idea of the Western as a kind of good hat, bad hat into something more interesting, in which you've got a really unique and damaged set of characters.
You must warn your passengers that they travel at their own risk.
At their own risk? Well, what's the trouble, Lieutenant?
Geronimo.
Geronimo? Well, then
Will you
sit down?
Inside the Stagecoach, each person is an archetype. You have the Scarlet Woman, who's once a good person but has kind of crossed a line, the corrupt banker, the gambler, the drunken doctor. So they're all thrown together, and they have to stay alive, and they have to learn to appreciate the best in each other.
And the camera rushes into John Wayne's face, and the close-up is so tight, you can see bead of sweat running down his cheek.
Hello, Curly.
You don't do that shot if that actor can't deliver as a movie star. And he does.
They used to say that Ford made him a star by not letting him talk, by just showing his reactions, which is somewhat true. Wayne said to me once, I'm not an action actor, I'm a reaction actor.
John Wayne has never gotten enough credit for being the great actor he was.
Thanks. That's all I wanted to know.
He had a style unlike any other actor before him or after him.
In terms of the action, that was incredible at that time. It still is pretty amazing. The Apache that jumps on the horse and then he's shot. He has to actually ride underneath it. That was all done in real time. This had to be carefully choreographed, very sophisticated.
Stagecoach came out in 1939, which is still considered the greatest year for film that ever was.
Look, there it is. Who? What?
The Capitol Dome.
Yes, sir. Big as life. Been there a long time now.
Yes, sir. This way, Senator.
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is a political parable. It's about an idealistic young man played by Jimmy Stewart.
He gets to Washington, and he finds this kind of corrupt machine that we fear is going to eat him up.
This is a man's world. It's a brutal world, Jeff, and you've no place in it. You'll only get hurt.
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is probably my favorite Capra movie. He was an immigrant, and he hated the idea of big government steamrolling the regular citizen.
I'm gonna stay right here and fight for this lost cause, even if this room gets filled with lies like these.
This film is a perfect example of how, in America, an individual can make a difference.
It's the tallest building in the world. You can't miss that.
1939 is also the year that Ninotchka was made with my grandfather and Greta Garbo.
Must you flirt?
Well, I don't have to, but I find it natural.
Suppress it.
I'll try.
39 stands out because it has so many amazing landmark movies that have stood the test of time and that are taught and referred to over and over.
Maybe it's a culmination, maybe it's a fluke. But the sheer number of memorable films everyone knows and loves that came out of this year is remarkable.
These days, everything is called an epic, but Gone with the Wind really was an epic because it shows you the possibility of film. It is a spectacle. Here is the Civil War and all of its horror and its size.
There's this huge pullback scene of wounded Southern veterans that's so emblematic. So from a technical level, it's very impressive, but the stories around the film are, to me, more interesting than the film itself.
David Selznick, one of the most important players in Hollywood, is an independent-minded guy. Walks away from the studio system at the very height of his career to start Selznick International Pictures. And within a year, it's clear that the primary objective of that company is to produce Gone with the Wind. And it would take him 3 years to get it made.
Who was to play Rhett Butler? It was like a national consensus. It's going to be Clark Gable. He was a man's man, and he had a real kind of sense of bravado about him, but one that seemed earned.
I'm in love with you, Ashley. I'm in love with you, Ashley. I love you. I love you.
The search for Scarlett was, on the one hand, definitely a publicity stunt. On the other hand, it was serious. Selznick wanted to find the right Scarlett O'Hara.
Selznick was already shooting on the backlot before Scarlett was even cast. He still didn't have his lead actress.
David Selznick is standing watching the burning of Atlanta, and they've got doubles playing Rhett and Scarlett in the wagon. And his brother Myron walks up with Vivien Leigh and says, "I'd like you to meet Scarlett O'Hara."
Ashley, I love you.
Scarlett.
I love you, I do.
I think it's incredibly hard to separate Vivien Leigh from Scarlett O'Hara. She's able to generate empathy out of a fairly challenging, if not despicable, character for most of the film, and she makes it her own.
Has the war started?
If you're going to tell that story, you have to have black people as slaves.
Miss Scarlett, what are we going to do with nothing to feed those sick folks and that child?
I don't know, Mary. I don't know.
The black characters played by Hattie McDaniel and Butterfly McQueen are really the best characters in the movie. They're the only, in a weird way, moral characters. You know, Rhett essentially rapes his wife, Scarlett is a disaster, Ashley Wilkes is just a weakling, Melanie is a doormat. But then you have Mammy in the center of all of this.
It's Mr. Red I was worried about.
She understands her place in the world, and she makes the best of it.
He done lost his mind these last couple of days.
Oh, no, Mammy, no.
I ain't never seen no man, black or white, sit store on any child.
There's a moment towards the end of the film when Mammy is telling Melanie about Rhett and his grief, and you feel it. It's such a powerful scene.
Please, Miss Melanie.
I'll do what I can, Mammy.
I present the Academy Award for the best performance of an actress in supporting roles during 1939 to Hattie McDaniel.
Hattie McDaniel was the first African-American to win an Academy Award. And even in how that happened, she couldn't sit with the rest of the cast. She was sitting in this area near the kitchen.
This is one of the happiest moments of my life.
It wasn't like she was now going to go into great leading roles. She continued to play maids. And she made this really interesting comment where she essentially said, you know, I'd rather make $10,000 playing a maid than make $10 being a maid.
I sincerely hope I shall always be a credit to my race and to the motion picture industry. My heart is too full to tell you just how I feel. And may I say thank you and God bless you.
Preston Sturges was one of the greatest comedy filmmakers of all time that maybe you never heard of.
I want this to be a picture of dignity, a true canvas of the suffering of humanity.
But with a little sex.
With a little sex in it.
How about a nice musical?
How can you
Early Hollywood was a very hierarchical society. Screenwriters wrote and directors directed. Nobody did both. Sturges wanted to direct. He wrote a script that the studio really liked. It was for a film called The Great McGinty, and he agreed to sell it to the studio for $1 if they'd let him direct. And the studio agreed. And the rest is history.
When I asked Billy Wilder who he thought the king of writer-directors was, he said, Preston Sturges. Preston Sturges is the first. Preston Sturges is the man that put these characters together and told these stories and opened the door for the rest of us.
The Lady Eve, one of his best films, is brilliantly set up. So Henry Fonda appears in the ship's dining room, and every eligible woman wants to get his attention because he's a rich guy.
Every Jane in the room was giving him the thermometer, and he feels they're just a waste of time.
Barbara Stanwyck and Lady Eve, that's like one of the best comedic performances of all time. When she's got the mirror and she's watching, it's really funny.
Go soak your head and see if I care.
It's not just this brilliant dialogue. There's also the incredible physical comedy. It's a wonderful balance of low comedy and high comedy. And life is both, isn't it?
Sturges had a stretch during the 1940s where he just turned out hit after hit after hit. It's an unprecedented streak of really quality films.
Cinema, roll 5, Alfred Hitchcock.
Hitchcock began working in the industry as an art director at the UFA studios in Berlin, where he got to watch some of the great German directors of that era, like Fritz Lang and F.W. Murnau. His first major film, The Lodger, looks like German Expressionism in a lot of ways. Then he went on to make these great British thrillers for which he became famous. Best among all of them, The 39 Steps. By the end of the 30s, he's the leading artist of the British cinema. but he understands that he's working in a very financially limited system. He also sees the war coming, and he's very happy to come to America and work for Selznick under this 6-film contract, starting with Rebecca.
That's it. That's Manderley.
Rebecca was based on a novel by Daphne du Maurier about a young innocent woman who moves into this old Gothic house.
This is Mrs. Danvers.
And her life becomes entangled in mystery.
How do you do?
She feels like she can't possibly compete with Rebecca, her husband Max's dead wife.
You think the dead come back and watch the living?
I don't believe it.
Sometimes. I wonder if she doesn't come back here to Manderley. Watch you and Mr. De Winter together.
Hitchcock was brilliant at putting the audience in the place of the character through the subjective use of the camera, what he used to call pure cinema.
The assembly of pieces of film to create fright is the essential part of my job. I believe in putting the horror in the mind of the audience and not necessarily on the screen.
His films took a genre and essentially made the genre the director's own. Hitchcock really was the master of suspense, and he deserves that title.
Incredible as it may seem, those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars.
Orson Welles came into the film business having been a tremendous success in radio. Scared half the country with War of the Worlds in '38. He was on the cover of Time because of his theater performances at the Mercury Theater. So he was hailed as a great actor and a great director, and he came to Hollywood with the best contract anybody ever had.
You know, when you don't really want to go out to Hollywood, then the deals got better and better. In my case, I didn't want money. I wanted authority. So I asked the impossible, hoping to be left alone. And at the end of a year's negotiations, I got it.
Orson Welles had such a monstrous ego. He was going to do it the way he was going to do it. And the hell with what anybody thought about it. And I admired that, because he had the skill to back it up.
Rosebud.
Citizen Kane begins with the death of Charles Foster Kane saying one word, Rosebud.
Find out about Rosebud.
The whole rest of the movie is about a reporter searching for the meaning of Rosebud.
Yes.
He speaks to people from Kane's past and reads the memoirs of his lawyer. And through the recollections of those people, we learn about Charles Foster Kane's life.
Maybe the thing that Welles did best was recognize what he didn't know early on at 25. So he hires Herman Mankiewicz, my grandfather, to write the screenplay. He hires Robert Wise to edit the film. Not to mention Bernard Herrmann's brilliant music. And of course, Greg Toland's cinematography was a breakthrough. It changed the way we make movies.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
It felt like something new. The transitions, the flashback construction, repetition of certain scenes from different points of view, and not to be ignored is the fact that Orson gives an extraordinarily brilliant performance.
I made no campaign promises because until a few weeks ago, I had no hope of being elected.
The technique that always sticks out to me on Citizen Kane is basically the depth of focus.
You're fired.
The close-ups are as sharp as the deep background. You see not just the story that he's telling, you see deeper into the story. He just created a handbook on cinema with Citizen Kane.
There's no question that Charles Foster Kane is based in large part on the life of William Randolph Hearst. He owned newspapers, a newsreel service, radio stations, and magazines. He was quite the power player in American politics, and even more important, in Hollywood politics.
Hearst blacklisted the movie. All his papers wouldn't run ads for the picture, and a lot of theaters got afraid of playing it. You can't make money with a picture if you can't get a theater.
By the non-Hearst papers, it was incredibly well received. It was nominated for 9 Oscars. It only won 1 for the screenplay, which went to my grandfather and Welles. Nothing else. I mean, should have won Best Picture for Welles, should have won Best Director for Welles, should probably have won Best Actor for Welles. It's a sign that pressure was almost certainly brought to bear on this movie.
There's no better first film in cinematic history than Citizen Kane. I don't know any other film that was a first-time director's film that can even light a candle, let alone hold a candle to Kane.
Rosebud.
Adolf
Hitler's all-out attack on Poland makes the long-dreaded European war a certain.
Through newspapers and newsreels, Americans have been watching the development of dictatorship in Germany. Hitler's propaganda minister had focused on how to deliver images that moved people's minds. Leni Riefenstahl turned an ugly movement into something cinematically beautiful.
Even the baby is thrilled and seems all smiles at His Excellency's attention.
Charlie Chaplin took that and broke it apart.
Chaplin makes this incredibly intense political satire, really decrying the state of the world and the possible state of the future.
Out Caesar, out Nolus, Emperor of the world.
So how do you deal with megalomania on screen without sounding strident and pedantic? You turn the world into a balloon, and you have this foolish demagogue dance with it. This clown can actually destroy this world. So it's both tragedy and comedy wrapped into one, in one of the most powerful political scenes in film.
Who do you think will win the war?
The slightest idea.
Rick is completely neutral about everything, and that takes in the field of women.
Humphrey Bogart is an American who runs Rick's in Casablanca. It's World War II, before the United States entered the war. Nobody knows his backstory. He's got the gambling, he's got the alcohol. He doesn't have to worry about the war. And it turns out the war comes to him.
No matter what the future brings as time goes by.
Sam, I thought I told you never to play.
Into Rick's cafe walks a couple, Ilsa and her husband, Victor Laszlo, a hero of the resistance.
Well, here's a great deal about Rick in Casablanca, and about Victor Laszlo everywhere.
Unbeknownst to anyone else in the movie, Ilsa and Rick have a past.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine.
He is the epitome of that wounded cynic. And what we get to see is a man who used to be an idealist reclaim that part of himself.
There's a great scene where the Germans are by the piano and they start singing the Wacht am Rhein. And everybody in Rick's cafe who's not German is silent and in pain. And Victor Laszlo goes to the band and says, let's play the French national anthem.
Play La Marseillaise. Play it.
They give that look to Bogey. He just goes. And then you're like, oh, Bogey's joined the war.
The movie is about refugees caught in desperate, life-threatening situations. And half the cast was refugees who had been caught in desperate, life-threatening situations. Peter Lorre escaped Germany when the Nazis took over. Conrad Veidt, who played the nastiest Nazi of them all, was a fervent anti-Nazi, had a Jewish wife. Marcel Dalio and Madeleine Lebeau, his wife, they escaped from France just as the Germans were arriving in Paris. All of Dalio's family that had been left behind died in the camps.
Defeating fascism through patriotism and the passion of loving your country. To this day, I get chills and tears when I watch that scene.
Casablanca is a perfect script for the perfect time. The way this story winds up is the only way that story could have wound up.
Ilsa, I'm no good at being noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the problems of three little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world.
It's telling us all that our problems as individuals don't mean a lot in the face of this bigger challenge to come.
He's looking at you, kid.
And that we all had to deal with that in the very darkest days of World War II.
Open fire! Yeah! To your station!
The typical story of a combat film is about a group with an objective facing death. They say, this is what we have to do, let's get this done and win it.
What do you think of a bomber now? Boy, I'll take it from that.
They're designed to reassure people and to involve people in the war.
you try to understand the change that World War II wrought on the movies, you have to understand that 5 of the greatest directors actually went and took part in the war.
It was Capra, and it was Ford, it was Stevens, it was Huston, and it was Wyler. These were clearly 5 of the great American icons. They served their country as storytellers and risked their lives.
And men who believed in their country, like my father, felt the moral obligation to defend their country against the scourge of Nazism.
In an effort to maintain contact with the enemy, our patrols immediately pushed ahead.
He was in some very hairy situations. He talked about a commander whose troops had really been decimated by the Germans, crossing a bridge that had been bombed. And this man raised his arm to salute, except he was missing a hand. The war definitely followed him throughout his life.
John Ford filmed the Battle of Midway that won him an Academy Award for Best Documentary. He also filmed the D-Day landings in 1944. He was deeply affected by the war. He comes back to Hollywood wanting to make a movie. He doesn't want to make your sort of we've won, it's all wonderful type of movie.
Take cover!
They Were Expendables about the fall of the Philippines and the defeat of the United States.
Ford made this very patriotic picture about the noble sacrifice.
When you see the general, tell him the end here is near.
Most of them were going to become prisoners of war, and many of them would probably perish.
As I call your names, kindly step into the plane.
At the end of the movie, it is very much about the fate of these sailors that were staying back on Bataan. If they didn't get on that plane, they know what that means.
Sir, how many more planes are coming in?
None.
To the American home, with welcome and well done everywhere.
Immediately after the war, everybody was saying, how do we pick up where we've left off? After everything that we have seen and learned, the cost of war is what is communicated in the best years of our lives, better than any war movie I've ever seen.
These guys are just trying to get home.
This is my street.
They never knew each other before the war, but they all meet and they become fast friends. And their lives start to really interconnect as they start to work out the huge damage that the war causes our emotional core. The film was made right after the war, and as the camera cranes up, you see this vast World War II graveyard of old hulks. No digital photography or matte work.
That phenomenal scene when Dana Andrews is sitting in the junked plane reliving his missions as a bombardier. It communicates that oppressive weight of the experience of putting your life on hold and going off and maybe coming back, maybe not coming back at all, or maybe coming back with no hands.
I've learned how to take this harness off.
The fact that they cast Harold Russell, a guy who lost his hands during the war, that was incredibly powerful.
This is a very proud and a very happy moment.
They had made plans to give him a special Oscar, and then it turned out the performance was so good that people voted for him for Best Supporting Actor, which they could not have predicted. So he won 2 Oscars.
Hello, darling. Hello, Daddy. Hello, Daddy. How do you like it?
It's a Wonderful Life wasn't very successful when it came out, which I'm always shocked, when I learned that a movie that we revere actually struggled in its initial release, but what a remarkable blend of narrative values and themes.
Daddy, the Browns next door have a new car. You should see it.
Well, what's the matter with our car? Isn't it good enough for you?
Because Capra was always such a humanist, I think it was very important to him to acknowledge flaws, acknowledge weakness.
George, what's wrong?
Wrong, everything's wrong. You call this a happy family? Why do we have to have all these kids?
Jimmy Stewart came back from the war as well. He flew missions. These are 2 veterans now, and I don't think it would have gone that dark had Frank Capra stayed home and made light comedies.
Apparently, Frank Capra appealed to him by saying it's a Christmas movie about suicide, and Jimmy Stewart said, Christmas movie about suicide? Count me in. You come back from the war with a kind of graveyard sense of humor, and George Bailey is light years away from that idealistic Mr. Smith in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
I think it was probably the strongest picture I've made. I never have run across such a unique story. A man who thought he was a failure being given the opportunity to come back and see the world as it would have been had he not been born.
You've been given a great gift, George. A chance to see what the world would be like without you.
That's a dark, dark place to begin a movie that's ultimately going to wind up being one of the great holiday movies and one of the most affirming movies ever made.
Merry Christmas!
It's powerful because it's been a journey from a place of true despair. And it takes guts to tell the story with that kind of strength and commitment.
Yes, sweetheart?
There's a girl wants to see you. Her name's Wonderly.
Customer?
I guess so. You'll want to see her anyway. She's a knockout.
Sure in, Effie, darling. Sure in.
Film noir is a style of filmmaking that's very popular in the 40s and 50s. The films are moody, they're pessimistic, they're kind of about the underbelly of American society. And because of World War II, there was an appetite among audiences for these kind of films.
Anybody hear the shot?
Well, somebody must have. We just got here.
Maltese Falcon is ostensibly a detective story, but the plot really revolves around all these crazy characters looking for the black bird and how Sam Spade plays these characters off each other.
You're good. You're very good.
What did he say?
About what?
About me?
Nothing.
What did you talk about then?
He offered me $5,000 for the black bird.
My father was not that big a fan of actors. If you watch his movies, he's more interested in character. I think this was why he loved Humphrey Bogart so much.
Thanks, darling.
There's a kind of directness and honesty about him that we're not used to.
When you're slapped, you'll take it and like it.
Bogart is not the good guy, and that is essential to this whole trend. The attitude is very American, but it didn't really become film noir until these filmmakers that came over from Europe brought a particular visual sensibility, and that is where noir was born.
I killed Dietrichson. Me, Walter Neff. Insurance salesman.
Billy Wilder adapted this amazing story with Raymond Chandler, and the way it starts with this voiceover narration told by a guy who's bleeding to death that would become so important to the hard-boiled detective stories.
I wasn't long, was I?
Not at all, Mrs. Dietrichson.
Hope I've got my face on straight.
Perfect for my money.
There was a very intense murder scene that had to be filmed, and how are you going to do it in this age of censorship?
This is not the right street. Why did you turn here? What are you doing that for? What are you honking the horn for?
Billy Wilder leaves the camera on Barbara Stanwyck, and she experiences the pain of her husband and then the satisfaction of it. She gives you all of that, and that's as good as it gets.
Okay, baby, that's it.
The murder you don't see in Double Indemnity is better than any grisly murder you could show me.
It's straight down the line, isn't it?
Barbara Stanwyck's performance as Phyllis is the archetype of the dangerous femme fatale.
Pack in the morning, meet me at the hotel.
When you get to Jane Greer in Out of the Past, she takes it a step further.
Can we get away with it?
She's much more of a cold psychopath. There's a scene where she's watching Robert Mitchum and his partner beat the hell out of each other, and she's sort of in ecstasy.
I'll never forget the images in that fight, her face, shooting the guy. It stayed with me for the rest of my life.
That'll dry your hair.
She takes him to the bungalow and they kiss. Something in the camera moves to the door and the door opens, it's raining. The camera just tracks. It's just visual poetry and mood.
Every studio at a certain point was making 6 or 8 of these movies a year.
Take this thing out of my mouth, will you?
Artists were eager to make movies that were more adult.
Harry.
This kind of notion of darkness in films, and kind of the opposite of a Hollywood ending where things don't work out well, things don't work out for the hero. This is film noir's legacy.
Yes, this is Sunset Boulevard, Los Angeles, California. It's about 5 o'clock in the morning. That's the Homicide Squad.
The 50s produced a lot of really dark, cynical movies. And it starts pretty early on with Sunset Boulevard.
It opens up with a body in a pool. Then it's all told in flashback by the man in the pool.
You're Norma Desmond. Used to be in silent pictures, used to be big.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
The performance everyone talks about is Gloria Swanson as Norma Desmond. Gloria Swanson had been a huge star in silent films, so she very much knew the character she played.
We didn't need dialogue. We had faces.
Now, in her early 50s, she was playing this deposed queen who becomes increasingly delusional and goes mad.
There's nothing else. Just us. And the cameras. And those wonderful people out there in the dark.
It's a film about Hollywood's tendency to throw people away, to build people up and then tear them down and forget them.
Lloyd, I'm not 20-ish. I'm not 30-ish. 3 months ago, I was 40 years old. 40. 4-0.
Sunset Boulevard and All About Eve both came out in 1950. Bette Davis had a kind of lull in her career. She had made a couple movies that hadn't made money, so this was a real comeback. Here she was playing this great stage actress, Margaret Channing, who was worried about losing her career, losing her man, and then along comes Eve Harrington.
Well, what do you think of my elegant new suit? Very becoming. It looks much better on you than it did on me. Oh, I can imagine.
This up-and-comer starts as a fan, but you quickly realize it's something else entirely. She wants to shove Margot out of the way and get the roles that Margot once was getting. Margot is fighting this tooth and nail as only Bette Davis can.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Bette Davis takes you from the height of vanity to the depths of despair. And I just love that arc. I think it's the greatest performance of her career.
Funny business, a woman's career. The things you drop on your way up the ladder so you can move faster. You forget you'll need them again when you get back to being a woman.
Sunset Boulevard and All About Eve are both movies about actors competing against each other and being usurped by a younger generation. And that's exactly what happened at the Oscars that year in the Best Actress race, where you had Gloria Swanson competing against Bette Davis. However, the winner was Judy Holliday, who had just risen to overnight fame in Born Yesterday.
Do I look 30 to you?
No.
But what'd you say it for?
I don't know. How old are you?
29.
It's entertainment in your own living room. And all over the country, movie audiences of all ages sit glued to their television sets. The picture may be small, but it's free.
Probably the most serious threat to movies came in the 1950s when people were buying televisions.
Biblical, expansive epics in the 50s were one of Hollywood's first successful answers to the threat of television. That brought people back to the theaters, and that just caused Hollywood to make more and more of them.
Who shall withstand the power of God?
Watching your black and white box TV on the floor of your living room was nothing compared to going to a movie like Ben-Hur. It was just not the kind of thing that anybody had seen at that time.
Movies have to get off their laurels, not laze around, and let's make going to the cinema an even more extraordinary experience. And after television comes along, some of the great musicals of all time come along as a result of that.
Good morning, good morning. It's great to stay up late. Good morning to you.
Singing in the Rain is the perfect movie. It's fun and it's beautiful and it's colorful and the songs are brilliant. I didn't realize at the time that they were from different musicals.
Singing in the Rain was in another movie. It was not that popular, but I think a song is just a song until the right singer sings it.
Singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again.
So they said, well, what do you do with singing in the rain? I said, well, it'll be raining and I'll be singing, you know. And that was it. So it wasn't very hard, really, to compose it.
Oh, what a moment of splashing of water on
Yeah, well, that part was fun.
Clang, clang, clang went the trolley. Ding, ding, ding went the bell.
When you come along with Vincent Minnelli making Meet Me in St. Louis and American in Paris, and then The Bandwagon, you have such originality, such joy.
and such works that stand the test of time.
You want to have bells that'll ring. You want to have songs that'll sing.
In 1954, George Cukor, the great director, remakes A Star is Born, and he turns it into a musical.
If I don't get my way, I begin to break up people and things at this moment. You understand, don't you?
Yes, I understand.
Judy Garland at that point has had her share of problems with drugs and alcohol. She's been fired by studios. So A Star is Born is really a huge comeback for Judy Garland.
The night is bitter.
She's playing the up-and-coming singer who is discovered by an alcoholic actor. So what you end up getting are these wonderful musical numbers, especially The Man That Got Away.
And all because of the man that got away.
She makes you feel every single emotion in it. She's heaving her body toward the camera. It is a cry of angst and pain. It is an opera moment that she is turning into just one of the great movie moments of all time. One uninterrupted take of her singing this song.
There's just no letter.
You see the most intimate revelation of this performer who has something inside them that somehow is not getting out because they're being boxed in another way. Everyone can relate to that, whether you're an artist or not, or a musician or not. Self-revelation.
We're going to get the answer to that question if we have to stay here for a week. Are you a member of the Communist Party? Or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
After World War II has ended, the House Un-American Activities Committee sets out looking for so-called communist infiltration of the American motion picture industry.
The charge has been made that the Screenwriters Guild had a number of individuals in it who are members of the Communist Party.
There was this sense that if the Soviets wanted to infiltrate America, the way to do it was to infect Hollywood.
Your purpose is to use this to disrupt the motion picture industry, to invade the right not only of me, but of the producers to their thoughts, to their opinions.
10 screenwriters and producers who refused to cooperate with their investigation eventually are found guilty of contempt of Congress and sentenced and serve up to a year in prison.
We will not re-employ any of the 10 until such time as he is acquitted.
The committee identified people who were suspected of being communists, and then the studios themselves proceeded to fire and blacklist anyone who refused to cooperate.
Ben Miller is down for depot now with Jim Pierce and Jack Colby. They asked about the noon train. The noon train?
Carl Foreman is writing the screenplay of High Noon in the summer of 1951 when he gets a subpoena to testify before the House Un-American Activities Committee. And he's beginning to write more into the screenplay of a parable, allegory even, about the Hollywood blacklist. Foreman begins to see the committee as the young thugs who are coming to town to kill him, and he begins to identify with the marshal himself.
This is my town. I've got friends here. I'll swear in a bunch of special deputies, and with a posse behind me, maybe there won't even be any trouble.
You know there'll be trouble.
Then it's better to have it here.
Cooper is giving this incredible natural performance. This ongoing dilemma that's going on in his mind ends up being the heartbeat of the movie.
Some of you were special deputies when we broke this bunch. I need you again. Now.
The script has this great 1950s theme of your neighbors abandoning you because you might be a communist or because they don't want you to know about their bomb shelter. The movie illuminated what was going on.
Carl Foreman was a man of such principle that when he testified, he would not name names. He paid an enormous price. He was forced to uproot and move to England. The great tragedy of the blacklist is that it destroyed careers and it bruised others and it turned creative people against one another. It was a terribly challenging time, and you had people fearing another war.
You're a traitor. You're a traitor and a spy.
Those are just unpleasant words. I'm a loyal supporter of the greatest social experiment in the world.
America was going through communist paranoia. We had communist infiltration in our schools and our government. And from that, you get alien invasion movies.
It was an era that was steeped in fear. not just from the communist witch hunts that were going on, but of course from the atom bomb.
The creation of nuclear weapons makes the possibilities for terror and horror seem endless.
The giant insect genre started with them in 1954.
A fantastic mutation, probably caused by lingering radiation from the first atomic bomb.
That kicked off a trend of creature features.
A monster leaving a trail of carnage.
The imagination ran wild. What's going to happen to us in this nuclear age?
I didn't think I had that much to drink.
I love all the 50 sci-fi films. I love the worst of them, the best of them. From I Married a Monster from Outer Space to The Day the Earth Stood Still. You can't get further apart in terms of two films that only share one thing, genre. That's it.
Now let's have it, Steve. What about this monster story of yours?
Well, it's big and terrible.
Originally, Godzilla was a Japanese film in Japanese. The way Hollywood tried to turn it into something that we could digest was they recut it with news scenes with an American reporter in Tokyo.
Look at the size of those footprints.
I prefer the pure Japanese version because it's so visual. It's much more primal, and Godzilla is much more fearsome. What are the people doing? They're trying to save themselves, and they're trying to concoct some kind of a technology to destroy the monster. That's all you really have to know.
It is literally the reaction of a populace that has had an atomic bomb dropped on them. What did that feel like culturally? Well, it felt like a monster came out of the ocean and stomped your civilization flat.
They come from another world, spawned in the light years of space, unleashed to take over the bodies and souls of the people of our planet.
One of the movies that really defines the anxiety of the 1950s is Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where the enemy is going to come, going to look like your neighbor.
Why don't you go in, Miles? We've been waiting for you.
It's going to take you over, and before you realize it, everything you know and love is gone.
Come on, we gotta go. Wait, let him go. They'll never believe me. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a great genre movie that works on two levels. It can be seen as a metaphor for the threat of communists. But on the flip side, it's about the threat of the McCarthy witch hunt. And yet it certainly works on its own terms as a horror movie. They're after all of us! Our wives, our children, everyone! They're here already! You're next!
On the Waterfront is a remarkable film set on the docks of New Jersey, a time when there were crooked labor unions that controlled the docks, and you had to be in good with the union bosses to get any kind of work. This is about how that system was broken.
Get a doctor!
On the waterfront, this is the first time I saw people that I knew that I was growing up with, the people in my family, of people in the streets, up there on the screen. The depiction of that lifestyle was very honest and not condescending. The tenements were the same, the roofs were the same.
Hi, Terry.
You could put a frame around every image, and it's beautiful art.
Be careful, don't spill no water on the floor, because I don't want them to catch cold.
The behavior of Brando was the breakthrough of the century.
I remember the first time I saw Marlon Brando on the screen, and it was a revelation.
Public hearings on
He
Waterfront.
revolutionized the art of acting
I don't know nothing.
by bringing a level of reality that nobody ever thought was acceptable.
I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody instead of a bum.
Everybody looked up to Brando. He was great. It wasn't about technique in a way. It was a technique of a sort, but it was about just feeling. You felt so much from him.
It was you, John.
Marlon Brando is often associated with the method as a style of acting.
The method essentially is terribly human, profoundly human thing. It's not, it was affected by psychoanalysis, the understanding of the soul, so to say.
Brando's brilliant in On the Waterfront, but who isn't brilliant in On the Waterfront? And they're all method actors from the Actors Studio.
As much as I admired Brando and Carl Malden and Lee J. Cobb, even Reese Saint was one of my favorite actresses, and I just thought she did an amazing job in the film. Kazan worked so well with her.
You George Oil sister?
Yes, I am.
There were so many of us from the studio. We all worked rather the same way, and we felt comfortable with one another.
I guess they don't let you walk with fellas where you've been, huh?
You know how the sisters are.
Yeah. Are you training to be a nun?
Edie, my character, had gloves, and I dropped a glove By accident, I dropped it. He picked up the glove. He put it on his hand.
We were going to have a Thanksgiving party.
It was very sensuous what he was doing with that glove. And Edie had to get the glove. And she didn't know how to get it, you know. She had to go to him to be closer to him.
I can get home all right now, thanks.
It shows the sensitivity and the genius of Marlon Brando.
On the Waterfront was nominated for 12 Academy Awards. It wins 8, including Best Supporting Actress, Eve Marie Saint, who's pregnant while she accepts it.
I may have the baby right here.
I had the baby the next day, and no, we did not call him Oscar.
When I think of some of the great actors of the 1950s, like Montgomery Clift,
I know where I stand.
Audrey Hepburn, Sidney Poitier, Andy Griffith, and of course, James Dean, they're a young generation who are willing to share more of their soul in a performance.
When I saw East of Eden, I was like, oh my God, oh my God. It was method acting at its finest. I do think that he's absolutely one of the greatest actors who's ever lived. And that's based on East of Eden alone for me.
Rebel Without a Cause was the film that made James Dean a massive star. He only was in 3 films, but all of them are unforgettable.
I really was moved by Rebel Without a Cause when he holds up the bottle to his forehead. I had never seen that, you know. I don't know where that came from. It was so internal and so conflicted.
Well, you sure did look pretty, Miss Leslie.
He just went farther than anyone I'd ever seen before that, immersing himself in these characters.
James Dean becomes an iconic figure who speaks to a generation. And when you add to that the unfulfilled life because of dying in his youth, you have a kind of perfect combination of a mythic figure, of which there are very few in Hollywood.
A kiss on the hand may be quite continental, but diamonds are a girl's best friend.
One of the greatest images in the history of film is Marilyn Monroe in that pink dress singing Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend.
Shape, diamonds are a girl's best friend.
What most people know about Marilyn Monroe is she becomes this big sex symbol starting in the 50s. But what a lot of people don't know is how funny she is.
Oh, do you feel the breeze from the subway? Isn't it delicious?
She eventually got tired of being typecast as the sex pop bombshell and wanted to expand her range. So she famously forsakes her contract with 20th Century Fox to move to New York to study with the most respected acting coach in the United States at this moment, Lee Strasberg at the Actors Studio.
I think we don't give Marilyn Monroe enough credit as a dramatic actress or as a comedian. She could do it all, and Billy Wilder knew it.
Some Like It Hot is Marilyn Monroe's most memorable film because she kind of puts everything together for herself. You really start to see her as a person that you care about emotionally.
All the girls drink. It's just that I'm the one that gets caught. Story of my life. I always get the fuzzy end of the lollipop.
When you're in the hands of a Billy Wilder, it's the right person saying the line in the right way. They hear the comedy of it. There's a music to a punchline.
This may even turn out to be a surprise party.
What's a surprise? Not yet. When?
Better have a drink first.
It's a ridiculous movie in a lot of ways. Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon played these two musicians in 1920 Chicago, and they accidentally witnessed the St. Valentine's Day massacre, and they have to escape. They decide to join an all-girl band, disguised as women.
I'm the bass fiddle, just call me Daphne.
Jack Lemmon becomes Daphne, and without really trying to, he attracts a millionaire who falls in love with him.
I'm engaged. Congratulations. Who's the lucky girl? I am.
Some Like It Hot is the greatest comedy of all time with the greatest last line.
But you don't understand, Osgood. I'm a man. Well, nobody's perfect.
Mr. Ford, I've noticed that your view of the West has become increasingly sad and melancholy over the years. Have you been aware of that change in mood?
No.
John Ford was amazing. He puts his great emotion and sensitivity into these remarkable films, one after the other, after the other, after the other.
I think he saw the world a little bit differently than other people did. He had this incredible intuitive sense of composition, and he undeniably understood the power of the frame.
The Western gave Ford the freedom to examine themes of masculinity, loyalty, revenge, and justice. The Searchers is a culmination of this journey with these same two key collaborators, the director now in the late part of his career and the star in the later part of his career.
The Searchers is probably as dark and malevolent a character as John Wayne ever played. His niece gets kidnapped by Indians, and he is just bound and determined to find her and save her, and he's not going to let anything get in his way. But once he finds her, several years later, what he finds is not what he expects.
These are my people. Und mehr. Go. Go, Martin, please.
Stand aside, Martin.
The Searchers is a film about racism. John Wayne's character's hatred against the First Nations people is profound. And then the fact that you then cut to the end of the story and he winds up rescuing Natalie Wood. And it always brings tears to my eyes when he embraces Debbie and then takes her home.
Let's go home, Debbie.
It's a film that offers a great deal of hope that the worst, dyed-in-the-wool hater of the differences in others can change.
The studio system was collapsing at the end of the 1950s. Almost everybody was a free agent to go sort of craft their own deal. So directors had the freedom to put their stamp on movies. This was a significant change in how Hollywood did business.
Mid-50s to early 60s Hitchcock is when he really churned out the most of his masterpieces. He started to make movies in color and to have these American casts and to make bigger, splashier kind of films.
I could see Vertigo over and over again and still not completely get it. And I love that about it. It's such a subconscious movie, kind of a riddle. You feel like Hitchcock is engaged in a symbolic conversation with the audience.
You want me to be dressed like her?
Judy, I just want you to look nice. I know the kind of a suit that'll look well on you.
No, I won't do it.
The relationship between Jimmy Stewart and Kim Novak is really like a director's relationship with an actress.
Hitchcock was fixated on how you looked. Your hair, your jewelry, the little stone here he picked out.
Mr. Hitchcock, can I ask you this? Are actors puppets, or must the director allow them a life of their own?
If the director is working in the purely cinematic medium, then the actor must come under his control.
Working with him was just the opposite from the actor's studio. He doesn't talk about any feelings. He told me, don't use your hands, lower your voice, and look directly into Cary Grant's eyes.
Jack Phillips, Western Sales Manager for Kingby Electronics.
No, you're not. You're Roger Thornhill of Madison Avenue, and you're wanted for murder on every front page in America. And don't be so modest.
Hitchcock was one of the first directors to become a brand name, where you might actually show up because Hitchcock directed it. And that feeling where people showed up for the director, that was about to become standard.
You look back at classic Hollywood in the 1930s through the 50s. This is the heart of American cinema. Everyone who's working today has seen and was influenced by that classic era.
Hey, Stella!
Those are the building blocks. Those are the templates of everything that came after it. You can go to those films again and again and again, and they live eternally if you just give them a chance.
I don't know what I'd do without you.
Our story of Hollywood's fabulous era has come to an end. For those of you who might have missed your favorite performer or film, our sincere regrets. In our brief time, we've been able to salute only some of them. But this show, in a sense, thanks all of them.